when I go to coaching clinics and I speak to young coaches or even old coaches, when I just speak to coaches, I always say that on any season, you're going to have 3 or 4 times during the season that your season is going to be made or broken based on something not basketball wise, something that's happened off the court, something that's happened in the locker room, something that's happened at practice, something that has nothing to do with winning or losing a game. And how you handle them, how you get your team to handle them is going to determine what type of year you have.
Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it.
Today we are joined by the head men's basketball coach at Oakland University, Greg Kampe. In 40 years as the head coach at Oakland, Coach Kampe has a career record of 699 wins and 537 losses. He was named the GLI AC Coach of the Year in 1988. He is a member of the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame and one of 9 D1 basketball coaches who have been at the same school for at least 25 seasons. Coach Kampe won the Summit League's Coach of the Year 4 times. In March of 2023, he became the current longest tenured men's college basketball coach after Jim Boeheim retired after 47 years. This past season, Coach Kampe led the Golden Grizzlies to Oakland's first Horizon League Tournament championship. They went on to win their first round of 64 game in the NCAA tournament as a 14 seed over 3 seed Kentucky. Before we hear from Coach, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at Jamodi Podcast.
Coach, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. I just want to thank you so much for giving up your time talking hoops with me. I'm a high school coach in Texas. You and I have no connection at all, but the fact that you would do this, man, I just really appreciate it.
No problem. Whatever you want.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about this time of year for you, and especially coming off this amazing run that you had. What's life like right now?
Pretty hectic. Everybody wants to do something right now, I mean, we're kind of slayed the dragon, right? Kentucky's whole world has changed. I mean, coach is gone, players are gone, everything's gone, right?
Yeah. I was thinking a lot about this talk and some questions for you. And usually we talk about things like culture, habits that you have. And I think we'll dive into that a little bit. But one thing that your players said quite a bit, and I think maybe you had said it too, is when reporters or somebody would say, being an underdog. And I think Jack Golke was definitely outspoken in saying, we're not underdogs. Is that something that just the players felt? Is that something that you spoke to them throughout the year?
No, I think that we believed that we were a really good basketball team. We had a really, really, really tough non-league schedule, and we went through it. We opened at Ohio State, and we kind of got, we got a bad deal at the end of that game with a call, and Golke should have been at the line shooting 2 free throws, down 1 in the last minute. Instead, the ball went to them, and Ohio State made a 3 on the ensuing inbounds play. I think we led for 30 to 35 minutes of that game. 2 or 3 nights later, we went to Illinois, and Illinois is one of the hardest places in the country to play. The place was full, and we're tied with 5 or 6 minutes to go in that game. And then 3-4 weeks after that, we beat Xavier at Xavier, and no non-league team wins in the Cintas Center. So we knew that we could play with anybody. We knew we were as good as anybody. And the way we played in the Kentucky game, I think, if you really were to go back and analyze that game and take the fandom out of it and that, it was one heck of a basketball game. I mean, I know the Kentucky faithful were upset with Cal and all that, but Kentucky played pretty darn good basketball game. I don't think their star guard did, but they, as I forget his name, number 3, but the rest, I mean, their senior had an unbelievable game, and it was the last 6 minutes of that game was back and forth. Both teams made every shot. Teams made plays, and it was a heck of a basketball game against 2 really, really talented teams. And I think that's what our guys were. They didn't want to labeled as, some Cinderella that got lucky. And I think we proved it against NC State.
Yeah, no doubt you did. And you're right on the money with what that game looked like. It wasn't like the superior team just had a horrible night. I mean, they were making shots.
Right.
It was back and forth. Both teams, it was exactly what March Madness, and what guys that love basketball, like that's what you watch it for. And just to see the passion of your players, but then the control that you had too. There's a moment in the game where your players are maybe starting to sense the fact that they've got it. And they maybe, coach, were looking out at the crowd wanting to enjoy that moment a little bit. But what a great example that you had in there of keeping them in the moment, keeping where their feet are and focused. That's hard for me to do at a small private school in high school. How'd you do that on that stage?
Well, I saw DQ Cole. He made an unbelievable three they had cut it to two, and with 18 seconds to go, I think DQ caught the ball with 2 seconds on the shot clock and buried a three. And we came down and got a stop at the other end, and that's when he started celebrating. We had a large contingent of people. Pittsburgh's about a 5-hour drive from our campus, so there was a large group of fans there, and he was over starting to wave at them and get them going, and I didn't like that at all. I called him over, and Rocket Watts knew I was upset, and he kind of jumped in too, and I just
Yeah.
basically, I also realized I've seen too many games where you can be ahead by four at the free throw line with 18 seconds. I think we were up. Yeah, we were up four with 18 seconds to go at the free throw line, and look, you can lose that game now.
Yeah.
And so I just, I wasn't happy. There were a few swear words probably came out of my mouth, and then I
Coach, we didn't
realized,
see that. We didn't
you know,
see that at all.
but I did
But
realize that, I mean, I had DQ's attention, and
yeah,
he was kind of a panic look on his face that I was upset with him. So I kind of made a joke, about it then I yelled, I said, DQ, act like you've been here before, even
yeah,
though we never have.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
and so everybody started laughing, and that got us back grounded. And we did our celebrating, privately. I'm not a big, show the opponent up,
Yeah.
celebration guy. I think you should be excited that we won that game. But if you truly expected to do it, then act like it.
Yeah, it goes right into the we're not the underdogs. I think underdogs act shocked like they can't believe that what just happened and your guys did they handled it with so much class and honored Kentucky at the end the way that they with the way that you guys finished and handled that in that moment too where it's just funny for me and kind of being a fan now getting to talk about all these things that I watched with you. You jumped on them and I personally I felt like I totally understood like this is not finished. There's enough time left. That's the whole thing too with do you foul or no foul at the end of a game with about 3 seconds or left. Well, if you do foul, there is a chance that they can beat you. If you don't foul and they shoot the three, it's a tie and you go to overtime. So if there's a chance, you got to be prepared and ready. I love that moment though, because it seemed like your players quickly realized maybe their error. They realized how serious you were, but then the way that you guys came together, I think it said a lot about your culture.
Yeah, I mean, you don't win a game like that against that level of competition against a team that played that well in the game
Yeah.
unless you firmly believe in yourselves. And we were a team that in this day and age was very unusual in that we were a selfless group of young men that had no ego, that had no entitlement, that only cared about winning, and that it's funny when you say that because in a meeting today with one of the players that's coming back, that came up, well, we can be better than we were last year, and his comment was, well, if we go about our business the same way. And so even the players knew and understood that this was very unique, that today, with all this me first generation and this, what's in it for me, for them to give all that away so that they could create this team that could win the way we won. Even they knew it. And that's what made them so special. And for me as a coach, it made going to work every day. There isn't a coach in the country that doesn't go into work at least once or twice during a season, not happy with, their job, this team, this way this group's going about their business. I mean, that our job's very, very difficult. And Joe Public, Joe Average, they think we have the greatest job in the world, right? We get to stand on the court, scream at officials, yell at players. We're on TV. We get to stomp our foot and things like that. But what Joe Average doesn't understand about our job is we played 36 games this year, and each game's about 2 hours. So that's 72 hours all year that we're actually on the court, stomping our foot on TV, doing all the quote fun things that you get to do. The rest, 76, 72 hours out of, 365 times 24 isn't a lot of hours. And it's those other hours that, our jobs, it's just a very difficult job to do. And so to be able to go in every day like that and not one time have that feeling of why am I doing this? Was just a godsend for me at my 40th year of doing it to have a team like that makes life so easy and so much fun. I feel like I was the blessed one. I was the one that was fortunate to be a part of this group.
What's up, Coach? Are you looking for a way to elevate your off-season skill development? Well, look no further. With the Ballogy app, you can build a workout with our library or create your own content. Send that workout to your players, and then your players complete the workout by recording their session on their phones. You can monitor and encourage competition with our leaderboards for every workout. Ballogy offers player development solutions in the palm of your hands. Get your team started today by going to ballogy.com for more info.
Man, I love that. And I hope that every coach gets to feel a season like that in their career. Because I would imagine, I don't want to speak for you, but in those 40 years, I imagine every year was like that, right? Like not.
I don't think you can name, I'm not sure there was even one like that where there wasn't one day.
Yeah.
A lot of great teams. And I always say, when I go to coaching clinics and I speak to young coaches or even old coaches, when I just speak to coaches, I always say that, on any season, you're going to have 3 or 4 times during the season that your season's going to be made or broken based on something not basketball wise, something that's happened.
Yeah.
Off the court, something that's happened in the locker room, something that's happened at practice, something that has nothing to do with winning or losing a game. There are going to be 3 to 4 critical moments during that year. And how you handle them, how you get your team to handle them is going to determine what type of year you have. And I had 0. There, not one. And it's probably, I can't remember for sure, but I think it might be the only time in my coaching career that I can say that. And I hope I can say that 2 years in a row, but I'm pretty sure I won't be able to because it's just the nature of what we do. When you have, I have 13 scholarship players, but I have a couple walk-ons. I'd like to say I have 15 kids on an average basis. When you have 15 young men that are competitive, that are from all different walks of life, that are, basically there to have a great career and succeed, to not have conflict, to not have any problem, to not have the ego, to not have the entitlement. That's an unusual thing.
Yeah. I think it's a great example of and a reminder for all of us as coaches to be where our feet are, but to enjoy the ride or the journey and not just necessarily be hunting for what's next. And I thought of that Urban Meyer clip in the 3-part series, The Swamp, where they just won the national championship and all the kids are celebrating. He's in the back hallway on his phone texting a recruit, trying to get the next wave, like couldn't sit and enjoy it. And so I appreciate you kind of giving that reminder to us that enjoy the relationships, enjoy the ride, not just hunting for what's next or next opportunity.
I think that's a very good analogy. And I can't sit here and tell you that it's, immediately afterwards, we weren't thinking about coming back because there were 68 teams in the NCAA tournament. 67 of them had ended the way it ended for Oakland with a loss. Mm-hmm. Some of them were heartbreaking like ours in overtime. Some were blowouts. Some were expected. I think when you expect to win and you lose in overtime, it's probably harder, but makes you want to come back. It makes you think about the future and how do we get back here and how do we take the next step. And especially for a program like Oakland, the chance of us ever winning the national championship based on past precedents is zero, right? I mean, no one's ever done it from our level.
Yeah.
So, but they have gotten to the Final Four.
Yeah.
And so we want to get there. We
Yeah.
want this program to get there. And so you really have to do that. But you have, as you said, you have to be grounded and you have to enjoy the luckiness of being around such great young men.
Yeah, and that's the balance. That's the balance. I don't think you don't look forward to it. Like I would imagine if we make a deep run in our playoffs, then those returning, man, let's use this juice that we have to make our spring and summer workouts better than ever before. Like we've tasted it, fellas. Let's get excited to get there. So I completely understand that. And I love what your senior or returning player said about let's do it again. And it made me kind of think of culture and how difficult it is in this climate. And Coach, I don't want to get into portal with you. I think every time I mention portal with a college coach, it's just kind of like, not the whether it's good or bad. It's just there. How do you do it again unless maybe you are bringing back a lot of players and you're just adding a few, but a lot of programs, I feel like, the other day I heard at Duke had 2 players or something like that. Like, it's just, you're starting almost fresh every year. And how do you replicate or try to bring back some of what you had in this year?
Well, I only have 4. So yeah, it is. I mean, that's what it is. That, I brought 7 new players in last year. This year, there'll be 9 new players. And
so you've done it before though. 7 new last year's a lot. Yeah.
And probably the following year, it'll be 11. I mean, it's just, this is what it is now. And as a coach, you have to accept it. I was unwilling to accept it when it first started. I lost. I was early on when that first year that the transfer portal came in, I lost 2 kids late that it rocked our program and I was bitter about it and I didn't like it and I fought it. And then, I got criticized heavily because why would those 2 kids leave? And then it started happening to everybody. And now I don't think anybody criticizes anybody. I think everybody looks at it as this is the landscape. This is what it is. And so we've gone now from, you have a program to now you have a team. And I don't believe you have a program anymore. Technically you do because it's Oakland, right? And you have a history and you have a tradition, but I don't think you have a program. You churn teams out.
Yeah.
I don't think you can churn teams out anymore. I think you have to create a team yearly. And you have to accept that as a coach. And, I lost maybe a generational player for us, one of the best players in Oakland history in Trey Townsend. He's going to get $500,000 to go play at Arizona now. I've lost a center that, ended up being would be a first team all league preseason player next year. And then a year before that, in this same recruiting class, I lost a kid named Micah Parrish who went to San Diego State. Now he's in the portal again and he's going to play at Ohio State next year. So there's 3 guys. One will be at Arizona, one will be at Ohio State, and one will be at Washington.
Wow.
That should be playing for Oakland in their last year next year, or could be playing for Oakland. And that's, see, maybe I haven't let it go, right?
Yeah, it's hard not to say it like that, especially when you care about kids. I mean, you invested in them and believed in them enough to bring them into your program. Yeah, I get it.
So that's this idea of a program. I got guys playing everywhere now, so it's all about next year.
Coach, your program's everywhere. It's all spread out. But what a great point, man, about used to be that your program built the team. Your program had held the standards that whatever players came into that year's team reflected the program and what it stands for. But now I just feel, like you said, you have to become a master at team building from year to year and evaluating what strengths and weaknesses, what works for them, and maybe even letting go of what worked for a team in the past.
Well, you have to be a master at roster building, that's for sure, and
Yeah.
building it, and it's a different build. You know, I was always a guy that wanted to be good every year and didn't care if I was ever great, right? Always just wanted to be good every year. Just consistency is the hallmark of a great program. And so I never wanted a senior class of 5 or 6 players that, all your starters were seniors. I always wanted to have at least a couple starters coming back. I always wanted to spread out the classes. I always wanted to just make sure that we were zooming along. Some years we would, we had a 6-year run where we went to the NCAA tournament 3 times. In our 24 years of being a Division I basketball program, we've won 9 league championships. We just want to consistently win a league tournament or a regular season title. We just consistently come back and forth. And now that's over. Now I got to build this roster. I got 9 scholarships next year, and I don't want 9 freshmen. I don't probably want any freshmen. We're going to bring one in. And then you sit there and think, should you bring 2 in? Because do you really want the freshman all by himself without somebody in his class? And I answered that, yes, I don't care. I don't want, the only reason I want to bring a freshman in is because there's going to be one that I really need someday. And I don't want the high school coaches to hate me because I don't recruit high school. I don't recruit high school players.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we've got 8 or 9 guys we're going to bring in every year, why not bring in 1 freshman every year? Now, most likely he'll never make it to his last year. He'll probably grow, develop, and be gone. Or he won't get to play much early because he's 18 and everybody else is 22 or 23, and then he'll get mad and he'll leave on his own. So the odds are that he'll never make it to his senior year in this environment, but I'm going to try and bring 1 in every year.
Is it that you have to love coaching enough and have passion for what you do enough? Like the statement you just said, we're going to bring in a freshman, but odds are he'll never finish here. Like, to reconcile that in your head and to be okay with that and to accept it, I would imagine, is it just the love of the game and love of coaching that allows you to do that?
Well, I don't like it. Just because I accept it doesn't mean I like it, or doesn't mean that's the way I would like it to be.
Right.
And I don't think it's the love of coaching. I think I want to keep coaching.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, my generation, pretty much everybody said, screw it, I'm out, right? Boeheim, I'm out. Jay Wright, I'm out. Roy Williams, I'm out. Mike Krzyzewski, I'm out. Although he'll say it wasn't because of that. It was because of that. You just go down the list of guys in my generation and they're out because they've made millions of dollars. They don't need it, And I mean, everybody in the country, every time a great job opens, they want Jay Wright to come back. And why would he? He's making millions of dollars doing what he's doing, and he doesn't have to go through that. So me, I have a very expensive golf habit, so I've got to keep working because I got to make money. All right. And then on the other side of that, what else would I do? And while a lot of people would hope I retired, and probably some of our fans wish I would retire.
Coach, not after this year. No way. No way.
Yeah, well, I got him for 6 months anyway. As soon as we lose the game next year, we shouldn't have lost. That they'll be back saying, he's old, he should get out of here. But no, I want to keep doing this, and that's the big thing. I want to keep doing it. And
you are making an impact on those kids, even if it's just for 1 year.
Yeah, I think so. I really think so. And that's all part of it. And, I got a call today from a former player who's the assistant general manager of an NBA team, and they're bringing one of my former players in tomorrow, and he was calling to let me know. And I asked him, do you think the kid's got a chance? And he goes, no, we're just doing it because of you, and so, to hear something like that, that's why you do this, right?
Yeah.
You see a former player out there. I mean, that's really the why. When people say, what's your why? It's when you really step back from it. Sure, you're competitive. Sure. Like I tell people all the time, what else would I do? I mean, I really don't know what else I could do. I mean, I've been doing this for 46 years and not anything else. So what am I going to go do and do well? You know, I hope I'm doing this well. And so what am I going to do and do well? And I don't think there is anything else out there. So you adapt or you die. And I don't want to die. I want to keep doing this.
You mentioned your goal is to be good every year, not necessarily great, and have sustained success, right? Where did that idea come from? Because maybe younger coaches, or at some point, there would be this idea to like, let's go all in, kind of the blue chip almost idea, great movie of like compromise, do whatever we have to do to get Shaq and those players. Where did that idea come from, just to stay competitive and good every year?
That's a good question. I probably really don't know the answer to that. I think it's just my makeup. It's just, I don't like to lose. I don't like to be part of losing. Winning is, I have to believe that every coach that's listening to me will understand this statement, and everybody that's in athletics but doesn't coach won't understand it. And that is, winning means really nothing. Winning is what you're supposed to do, right? And the pressures and everything that you have are to win. And so when you win, it's almost a relief. Okay, we got that one. But what winning does, it always makes the next game more important. Because when you're winning, now championships start to get involved. Now expectations grow and get higher. And so winning for a coach is, it's really nothing. Death. Losing is death, right? Losing is, oh my God. And you stay up all night, you can't think, and what happened, and what did you do wrong, and what could you have done to change it, and this player did this, and how do I get this player not to, how do I get better? How do I do? That's what losing does to you, because when you're winning, you don't think about things like that.
Yeah.
When you win, it's on to the next one. Okay, we got that one. How do we get this one? And when you lose, you reflect. And reflection is what keeps you up at night. Reflection is what, you put your head down when you walk into a room, because you don't want anybody to, what they're saying, and you don't want to hear it. You know what I mean? I think coaches all understand that.
Yeah.
Where Joe average fan is like, oh, look at them, they're winning. Look at no, it's not like that at all. I mean, we beat Kentucky, and sure, it was a whirlwind in that, but my whole mindset was on, okay, we got NC State. And then we lose in the last second the way we lost to them, and I haven't slept since because of it. There's every night I wake up thinking about what we could have done in that last 10 seconds. And, that's this business.
I always think of the Bobby Knight quote that the toughest thing about coaching is that we want to win way more than our players do, or that our players don't want to win as much as we do. And I don't know if that's always true, but I know for sure what you just said is parents, fans, there's just no way that they can care as much. And I've always felt the eyes or the look. I know coming out of the locker room, even the small gym here at Faith, I can tell immediately what those parents are thinking, what they thought of their son's playing times. They just don't have good poker faces. Can't imagine what that feeling is like on your stage.
It's the same. I mean, it just might be more people, but they're the same. The pie's just bigger is all that is, but they taste the exact same, man. It is what it is. That's our business. So and for some of us, we can't handle it. And for some of us, we thrive on it.
Yeah.
And I think that sustaining 46 years, I probably thrive on it a little bit, right? It's probably motivation. It's probably, like when I spoke to that player today and he said what he said, I go, yeah, let's show the people that left us they shouldn't have left, right? And that it's not about money, that they shouldn't have left. Let's go further than we did this year.
And that's a great perspective to have, I think, for all of us. And because whatever's happening at your level, it's trickling down, right? To the bigger high schools in DFW, those players are moving.
Nope, not at all. I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay.
Here's the way it's happened. It's they say that SHIT flows downhill, right? It doesn't. This is going uphill. This started with mommy and daddy at 8 years old. My son's not good enough. Screw this. I'm going to move you here. And you're not good enough there. We're going to move you here. And it started with moving from this team to that team to this team to starting my own team. I mean, Imani Bates, his dad, started his own team because he didn't like the way the best number one ranked player in the country in high school didn't like the way he was being coached and started his own team and tried to build a LeBron James super team. Okay.
Yeah.
Started. And then it went, though, that's the first group that did it, moved up to 10 years old, then to 12 years old, then to 15, then to 18. They left. There's kids playing at 4 different high schools.
Yeah.
And now those people are the ones that sued the NCAA. They moved their whole lives. Now they got to college. And now they sued. And the reason that the rules changed is because the NCAA couldn't win the lawsuits.
Yeah.
So now you can transfer now without penalty as many times as you want. And that ruling just got approved. It's done now. It is law now. The only adherent to you transferring is if you're not academically eligible. As long as you're academically eligible, you can play anywhere. So that didn't start here and move down. That started down there and moved up. Now a lot of the crap that's going on, you see started up here and moved down. I'll admit that, you know.
Well, and you know what? Yeah, I think you're right. Just listening to you right there, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm not in any way trying to blame college coaches for what's happened. And maybe, man, we just got to go back to human heart, human nature. That's where all this is coming from. But I think I love the perspective that you had on that. And I think it's important when we lose players or things happen. Every situation can be an opportunity if you choose to look at it that way through the lens of motivation or how can we prove something. And that sounds like what you and your player were talking about.
Well, I think you have to look that way because when this first started, that first year when I lost those 2 kids, we had our worst year in our Division I history the following year because and we would have been picked first or second in our league. We had 2 young, our whole backcourt was coming back. One was the all freshman team, and the other one was going to be a preseason first team all leaguer. And they left, and they did it so late that we couldn't recruit anybody to replace them. And that was before restrictions on the portal were put in. Now you enter the portal on a certain day. You can't enter it after this day. So things like that happened to more than just Oakland.
Yeah.
And so that brought rules along with it. And we're going to see a lot more rules. This is just the tip of the iceberg, as they say right now. I think 6-7 years from now, it's going to look college athletics is going to look so completely different than it does today.
The Jamodi podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products.
My high school coach, Tommy Thomas from the Colony, was there when it opened for 17 years, so for a long time. And there's a part of me that at Faith, I've been here for only 11 years now, so not nearly 46 like you've been in it. But I like to think that like my high school coach did, staying at one place for a long time, building something, like you said, a program, and even though it's hard now, and having this word legacy maybe out there, what is it about you that is being at one place for 40 years? Has it always been the goal to have something like that?
No, and honestly, it's never even been a thought, And it's like you talk about Tommy Thomas, right? Well, I've known Tommy for years. I've had players from the Colony. Harold Baber was a player.
I was going to bring his name up. Yeah.
And Tommy had, what was the Williams kid?
Yeah, Coach, my claim to fame is that when I was a senior, Darren was a sophomore with Bracy Wright, who was another phenom. They were the same age. Coach, for that year, I think I was a little bit better than Darren. And then I went off to Baylor, and I came back the next year. He was a junior, and that sucker was so much better than me. He had grown and he was just so good. But anyway, keep going.
Did you play for Scott at Baylor?
I played for Dave Bliss for 3 years, and then going into my senior year, Coach Drew came in after the program fell apart. So I know what it's like to play with 6 scholarship players and 5 walk-ons. I don't know what it's like to have brand new teams like it is now, but
Yeah, those were the days, Bill. Scott's a good friend of mine too, but Tommy's you were fortunate to play for him, and that's what we're talking about as longtime coaches. We say a statement like or think of all your players and 20 years from now, how they're going to be talking about how fortunate they were to play for you because you stuck around, you cared about faith, you cared about them, you cared about, making sure that they became men. Yeah. And that's what's really happened here. I didn't have 5 years became 10, 10 became 15, 15 became 25. And all of a sudden it's 40 years and there's no, I wanted to be here I never thought I'd be here 5 years. I mean, I thought I'd go to Oakland, I'd coach a couple of years, I'd get the UCLA job, and then I, make millions and millions of dollars, retire on an island somewhere, all those dreams that you have when you're a young coach, win 20,000 national champions, those things just go to the wayside as you do your job, and the days come off the calendar and you're so focused on what you're doing that, I think when I say that though, I think the certain type of individual that I am allowed that to happen. I think there's a lot of types of individuals in this business that what I have done couldn't have happened. I'm not saying it's good or bad or somebody's better than the other.
Right.
I just think I'm a guy that, kind of goes to that idea. I just want to be good every year, right? It's not like I was chasing something. Oh, my job's not good enough, I want that job. It's just the type of individual I am, where consistency, I just want to be consistent. I want to do my job every day. I'm lucky to have my job. I'm glad that they want me still to be here. Do I have aspirations? Would I have liked to have been the coach at Michigan or Michigan State or Ohio State or something? Sure, I would have. But it's not something I chased. And there's a line to a song that I've used quite a bit to try and explain it. And it's a Sheryl Crow song. And it's not getting what you want, it's wanting what you've got. And I think that's, I can tell by the look on your face, it's a very powerful.
Yeah, I know the song. Yeah.
Yeah. And especially if you step back and you've lived the life that I've lived, it's easy to say that because I think it's proof that it was never getting what you wanted, because if you want something out there, you go after it, right? Mm-hmm. And I think especially coaches, especially the way coaches are built, if there's something out there they want, they try to go get it. Yeah. So for me, it's just, I must have always wanted what I had because I was content, I don't know how it got to 40 years. I hate it that everybody talks about that because it says you're old, right? I mean, I've spent the whole year.
I'm not calling you old. I'm not seasoned.
Yeah, there you go. Boeheim texted me when he retired and said, "It's yours now," and I text back, "I don't want it." Wow. I don't want to be the longest tenured coach because everywhere you go, that's all they talk about. And then that's the old guy, right? So it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah. And to your point, not at all speaking badly about those guys that do have a 5, 10, 15-year plan and want to get to the highest level of their, classification, whether there's a high school coach or not. And maybe it's a little bit, I don't know if there's something in your past or your high school coach or your family or people that influenced you. But that year with Coach Drew, watching how hard those guys had to work and how much they're away from their families did influence me from really never wanting to be in the college world. I just saw that we were in Hawaii at a tournament and those dudes are on their phones the whole time working and grinding. And not that everybody has to do that, but they were that driven. And I didn't know if I could be at that level and be that driven. I think maybe important for coaches is to really think about who they are and what they want. I feel like I'm a little bit more in your camp of if God, and I'm a believer, if God wants me here, I'll be here for as long as it is, and not necessarily looking for something. But I think it's a little bit about maybe my experiences that lead me to that feeling.
Well, and you got to also understand that the rewards are the same.
Mm-hmm.
The rewards that you have at Faith are no different than the rewards I have at Oakland,
Mm-hmm.
and they're no different than Tom Izzo's rewards at Michigan State. The difference are monetary and how many people know or watch, right? I've had so many people reach out to me after the Kentucky win that have known me forever and say, we're so happy that the whole world got to see what you've done.
Mm-hmm.
And my answer to that is I never needed the whole world to see it, right? I just want to win.
Yeah.
And I have no care that the whole world knows, or that the whole world watch that game. I think it's cool, and we're using it in recruiting, and we're not monetizing it, but we're
capitalizing on it.
Capitalizing. That's the word I want. Exactly. We're trying to capitalize on it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But honestly, for me personally, I mean, it's crazy the amount of people that want my time now. It's crazy the amount of people that want to take selfies. It's just unbelievable crazy. But it's not something that motivates me. I make jokes about it, and it's cool and stuff like that. But the reward is no different than what you went through, what I went through, what Izzo went through. It's no different. It's just there's, as I said, there's more money and there's more exposure.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because I think a lot of people would ask or wonder what is different about life, and just kind of hearing how grounded you are in your past and what you've done, and it's just, I don't know, it's kind of cool and refreshing, I think, to hear. I wonder how many coaches are out there like that are just being faithful where they are, that you'll never hear their name. They never get that opportunity for a lot of people to know about them. I gotta feel like, Coach, there's a lot of them out there.
Oh, there are. I mean, there's no question about that. I mean, that's what we do, though, right? That's what drives us. That's the why. And so you just show up to work every day and do your job.
Would love to talk a little bit about Jack Golke, because I can't thinking back, maybe Jimmer was the last guy that in the NCAA tournament that we watched kind of use that 3-point line as such a weapon, but also shoot with such confidence from such distance and speeds and angles, and just put on a show like that. What was a little bit about his process of being able to take those kinds of shots, being confident? I imagine it goes a lot to do with his teammates and the confidence that you put in him. But I'd love to hear a little bit about his process.
Well, this goes to what we were just talking about, though. The world found out about that, but he's a long line of guys that I've had do that. It isn't something special that we did for Jack Golke. He was the next guy. I had, Max Hooper, I had Travis Bader, I had Eric Kangas, I had Brad Buddenborg, I had Jason Rozicki. I just guy after guy after guy, and we use that in recruiting. Max Hooper shot 247 threes his senior year and 0 twos. He's the only player in the history of college basketball to not shoot a two. To have over 10 shots in a season and not shoot a two. And so, and the sets and the plays are very similar. It's not like we created new ones for Jack.
Right.
Jack's mindset, you have to be that player. Everybody wants to be that player, but very few can, because you have to be able to forget about, you can't have a rear view mirror, right? And the Golke, his first game, we recruited him for that position. A friend of mine was his coach at Hillsdale College. He wanted to try and play Division I. The coach called me on the phone and said, I think he fits your system perfect, which basically said he can't guard and he'll shoot it every time because he said, I don't think he can play for anybody else in Division I but you.
Yeah.
And it was probably true. And now he's going to be in pro camps and things like that because he had his one shining moment and he came through. You know, that old Eminem song, right? You have your moment, right? And
If you had one shot, one
Right.
opportunity.
Exactly. And he had one.
Yeah.
And he capitalized on it. But he, first of all, he's a great kid. And he had his moment. He started with 6 threes against Ohio State in the opener. And we go to Illinois the next game, and Shannon is on him like a glove. And he made his first 3 in transition, and then he couldn't even get a look. And after the game, I said, "Welcome to Division I basketball. Now that you've proven that you're a shooter, this is how you're going to get guarded."
Yeah.
And he had some moments during the season that it didn't go well. And the reason I always knew he was going to make it is because he never had a 1 for 5 game. And what do I mean by that? Is his 1 for games were 1 for 10, 1 for 12. And when you go 1 for 10 or 1 for 12, that means you have the right mindset because you kept shooting, right? The guys that go 1 for 3 or 1 for 5 that stop hunting shots and stop getting shots because it's not their night, it's not going in, and I'm going to do something different. I don't want that guy on my team. I want the guy that's going to be 1 for 11 or 1 for 12. And so, you know, I kept preaching that to him. I kept preaching that you're going to be fine. You got to keep shooting. You're the best in the country. Keep shooting it. Keep shooting it. And we went to Milwaukee while he was in the middle of this struggle. And Milwaukee's his hometown. And Milwaukee, that we beat them in the conference tournament championship. They were picked second in the league. They didn't, I think they finished 6th maybe. But you knew they had been injured, they had everybody back, and you knew they were good. And we ended up beating them in the conference tournament championship. But we're at Milwaukee, and it's really the game that won the regular season for us. We're down 3 with 30 seconds to go, and he makes it, you know, and he's got 80 people there from his hometown watching the game. And Milwaukee only had about 2,000 at the game, so you could hear these 80 people. And he buried a shot. You know, and in that game, he started 1 for 3 or 1 for 4 and kept shooting and made a few, and he buried one to send it to overtime. And then at the end of overtime, we were down 3 again, and he buried one to send it to double overtime. And then in double overtime with 30 seconds to go, he buried one to put us up 3. And then he got fouled on another one and made the 3 free throws, and we won that game in double overtime. And from that point on, he was his last, that was probably 6-7 games left to go on the season, and those games and the 3 tournament, you know, 5 tournament games, 2 NCAA and 3 NR, he was as good as I'd ever coached. I mean,
wow.
His focus, the ball going in, his belief in himself, and it all was with his family and fans there. It just turned him into a legend. I mean, he is going to be an NCAA tournament legend for 15 years. I mean, you still see Bryce Drew. Speaking of Drew, you still see
the shot.
Making a shot. And that was in 1998. And they still show it every year at some point in the NCAA tournament. They're going to show Jack Golke make that shot, pull that arrow out of his back, shoot that arrow, run down the floor. And then at some point during the season, when somebody upsets somebody, going to commercial, they're going to have Jack Golke saying, "We're not a Cinderella." You know, I mean, he is going to be an NCAA legend, and he's monetizing it, which they couldn't used to do, and he's doing it. So I'm really happy for him because his chance of monetizing basketball really isn't, you know, the whole world thinks he should be a pro now, but having coached him, I really don't think that that's going to be, you know, he's going to be an accountant making money, and he's going to make money off what he did, that one shining moment.
Yeah, the jump from college to NBA, it's just insane, even more than high school to college. But one thing that you said that it's a great golden nugget, and I think for coaches that want to create shooters or a shooting culture or enable some of their better shooters just to have those unconscious performances is one, encourage them that they have to get to a certain amount of attempts. A story of Duncan Robinson, when he was in the G League, they wouldn't bring him up to the NBA until he could take 10 threes in a game, until you can take 10. So that's the whole idea is like people think, oh, shooting a ton like Golke did, that's just so much, it's got to be so much fun. It is difficult to miss 4 or 5 or 6 and continue to take them. Doug Novak, one of my kind of heroes, said it's not that you have to make it, but it's just you have to take it. But it's a great nugget. But no, I think you're right on the money. I don't think people understand how difficult it is to shoot and continue to shoot shots, especially during misses. 8 for 10 performances, those are fun. Those are the ones that you just never forget. But the 1 for 10, 1 for 11, those are the ones that show how mentally tough you are.
I agree 100%. And all great shooters have them. I don't care. Steph Curry has his 1 for 12 nights.
Yeah, what was it? Ray Allen that went like 0 for 12 from 3, and then 2 days later in the playoffs broke the single game record. I always joke with my players, like, what did he do in those 24 hours? To find a guru, like go to a coach and, hey, if you just do this, no, he just kept shooting, baby, just the process.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Shoot 360. The future of basketball has arrived in Dallas-Fort Worth. Shoot 360 combines the latest sports technology with the fundamentals of basketball skill development. The result is a one-of-a-kind video game-like basketball program designed to improve your shooting, dribbling, and passing. Visit shoot360dfw.com to learn more and register for your free 1-hour workout evaluation. Shoot 360, the future of basketball is here.
Coach, the speed round. Before I let you go, these are quick questions. First thing that pops in your head. So many people think they know you now, but we'll really know you after this.
Okay.
All right.
You're not gonna embarrass me, are you?
No, sir. These are easy.
All right.
Favorite
Okay.
ice cream flavor?
Oh, in the old days it would be strawberry, but now with all this other stuff, I mean, I like Heath Bar. I like I just found a new ice cream here in Detroit. It's coconut. It was unbelievable how good it was.
Really?
Right now, you got me on a day that I'd say coconut.
Okay. All right. Greatest shooter of all time?
Travis Bader.
Hmm.
He's the guy that played for me that broke the NCAA all-time 3-point shooting record. And because of what he did for me, he'll always be my greatest shooter.
Nice.
But Golke kind of pushed him, I will tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great, for somebody like you. Yeah. Almost to rank your shooters or top 3. That'd be a fun one. But here's one. If you were had a dinner party and you had 3 people you could invite from any time period, who would they be? Who'd you want to eat with?
Well, I would probably pick coaches. Okay. You know, I've been asked this question before, and you know, the obvious answer to anybody in life would be Jesus Christ, right? I mean, who wouldn't want to ask him questions?
Let's say he can't come for whatever reason. What are the 3 coaches? I'd love to hear that from you, like those guys that you just love to have that time with.
Fog Allen, James Naismith.
That's a good one.
Okay. And then I would say Bobby Knight. And now I met Coach Knight. I was an assistant that coached against him. But I think he had one of the most iconic coaching careers that anybody could have, because he was, how do I want to say this in all respect to him? He was the guy that set the standard for a tough son of a gun, and then the world changed and he got lost in it. And I would love to sit and talk to him about why he fought it and why he wouldn't change, and how he thought it affected his career. Well, obviously we know how it affected his career, but how did it affect his legacy? For me, obviously, it didn't affect his legacy, because, you know, he was a guy that I was a young coach that I looked up to. And I looked up to him because he won in what I thought was the right way.
Yeah.
He won in, you know, in an era where coaches might have cut corners and maybe, you know, didn't follow all the rules and all that. He was stringent about the rules, and he wore the rules as a badge of courage.
Yeah.
And we can win this way, and almost to excess the other way. So in Fog Allen's and James Naismith, I want to know, you know, how did you turn basketball into what it is today? And how how did you write the rules on a napkin and the historical view of the game. But Knight would be the one guy that I would just like to pick. But at this meal, they have to be honest with me, though, right?
That's right. That's right.
They can't.
They have to answer questions.
Right. They can't blow smoke.
He's not going to treat you like he did the media back in the day when they asked him what he thought was dumb questions. But just to kind of ask about James Naismith, what do you think he would think about where the game is today? Love and amazed by it, or this isn't it?
Well, it's probably not the game that he envisioned. A peach basket that didn't even have a hole in it, right? I mean, you had to reach up and take the ball out of the basket. So, but for me, with him, it's more how did he come up with this? I mean, he invented the game. It's an American game that he invented. And then how do you feel about how they've changed the rules?
Yeah.
How do you feel about look at these, look what this game's become. I think that would just be cool to be able to to pick somebody's brain like that.
Coach, that's really good. Best basketball movie of all time?
Hoosiers.
Texting or talking?
Oh, I'm going to talk over texting, but unfortunately, nobody wants to talk back, so you have to text.
You got to text, especially players, right? Like that's the way.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm in Texas where there's no shot clock for high school. For high school, shot clock or no shot clock.
They need to put it in. Michigan doesn't have it either, and all the coaches want it, and it needs to go. And the only reason you don't have it and Michigan doesn't have it is the cost.
Yeah. I
mean, it's the only reason everybody knows it should be in. The reason it's not is because nobody wants to spend the money to make every gym have the shot clocks.
Which is kind of funny. If you've probably been down the Dallas-Fort Worth area, if you go to some of these gyms that are bigger than some college gyms, the money's there. But tradition maybe, and just holding on to an advantage for teams that don't have really a chance unless they manipulate time. I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't think any coach doesn't want a shot clock. Just every coach wants one.
Couple more, Coach. Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
If you're up 3 on, go ahead.
Halloween's pretty close though because I love candy.
There you go. Favorite candy. I'm going to see if we line up on this one.
Well, I have a bunch of those. Chocolate would be Milky Way.
Okay.
Or Milk Dud. One of those two.
I'm going to put myself out on the line. Thoughts on Raisinets?
No.
No. Coach, we've been so aligned throughout this talk, and then you.
I'll eat them, but they're not in that top 10. I mean,
that's my go-to. I gain weight every season because after losses, gas station right up the road, 2 boxes of Raisinets.
Now maybe I'll try those.
Oh man,
maybe that'll stop me from eating candy though, which I need to have that happen.
Coach, it's not fruit, all right. So it's still candy. That's what book would you give someone?
Lone Survivor.
Oh,
I had our team read that one year, and I think that changed the absolute. I actually was on a podcast the other day explaining why that kind of came up, and I explained why this win the day mentality. And I think that's why we won a championship this year is because in that book, he's going through the hell week and most, they train, and then they have to go through this and it is hell. I mean, they describe everything in it. And he says in that book, the only way a cadet or whatever they're called gets through and makes it to becoming a Navy SEAL is that you have to look at the next option, the next goal in front of you. You can't look about, okay, I got to get to Friday. If I get to Friday, I win. It's about the next play. Yeah. It's about the next event, the next task. And so we really hit hard on that this year about winning the day. Let's just win today. Let's not worry about tomorrow. Let's not worry about yesterday. Let's just win today. And I think it's easy to say those things, but when you've read Lone Survivor and you've read the outcome of doing that, to me, it's a book that I would want every player to read.
That's good. Is that something that you do every year? Take teams through a book, or kind of random?
No, that's been random.
Yeah.
It goes back to that what we were talking about, consistency, right? So when you have a year that's not up to standard, you're always trying to recreate yourself, reevaluate, and so now you put a saying on a T-shirt, and I've gone through those stages too. We don't do that anymore. I had somebody convince me that was the stupidest thing in the world, and I agree with her now. They don't care about what you wrote on a T-shirt.
Yeah.
But what you say to them does matter, and how many times you say it, and how consistent you are in saying those things. But when you reinvent yourself, when you recreate, then you do things like that. In one year, I wasn't happy with the season. I didn't think we were tough enough. And my son was at the time trying to decide if he wanted to go to West Point. And he wanted to be an Army Ranger. And I was trying to find out as much as I could about the Navy SEALs and the Army Rangers. And so I read this book because everybody told me read Lone Survivor. And it was life-changing, for me when I read it. I don't know if it was life-changing, but it was game-changing.
Yeah.
And so I was so enthralled with it, I had the team read it, and we had a great year. We really had a great year the next year, and we lived that model. We lived that win-the-day model, that team.
Two more. Favorite place to travel?
I've been to a lot of places, and if I could only go back to one place, it would be Mykonos Island in Greece.
Oh,
If
never
you could ever
been.
if you can ever get there, go.
Yeah.
And you'll send me a note and say thank you.
Okay. Last one. In basketball, as a player, who's the GOAT, the greatest of all time?
I think it's very questionable in my mind, but it isn't the people that are fighting the battle today. It's not between those two guys.
Yeah.
I think it's Jabbar,
Mm.
Jordan, and Bird, with maybe a sprinkle of Magic Johnson.
A sprinkle of magic.
But I don't think you can say. I think all three of those were different players that had and that's why I sprinkle Magic in there too, because while Magic and Jordan, I think, are the most similar of those two, neither one could shoot when they first got in the game. They affected the game with the ball and defensively. They could play multiple positions, and they guarded really well. And I think that's why Magic's career was cut short, so probably nobody else is going to put him in there, and that's why I say a sprinkle of him. But Jabbar, Bird, and Jordan are all different players, and they did it differently, and they changed the game. I mean, Larry Bird changed the game. He changed people's opinion of the game. He drew fans to the game, and Jordan obviously is Jordan, and Jabbar,
unstoppable.
The next Jabbar, you may never see the next Jabbar, right? We've gone away from that type.
Coach, you just gave me an hour of your time, and I just want to thank you so much. Congratulations on an amazing, not just season, but an amazing career. Thank you for affecting so many lives the way that you have and what you've done for coaches. This was an absolute honor for me.
Oh, man, I appreciate you having me on. Anytime you need something, you just let me know. I'll be there, okay?
Yes, sir.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi Podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.